Only 12 days after they arrived in No Town, and only 14 days after snow and sickness buried their homes, Blizzard Dancer and his Appaloosa stood miniature before a mighty, weakening portal. Salt and flintlock musket powder blew into the atomic fallout, as if from an open window. He could hear the dark waves crash into Long Wharf. "It's our only path home," reported Blizzard Dancer to the generals by candlelight. "That would make 3 foreign battles in just 12 days, said Brigadier Dorsey. "No militaries ever faced that in the multiverse. Let alone after all of this." "And it's the 6-star general," mentioned Fraser. He folded the latest report on 4-0 surgery. Doc, Mama J, and Motor all operating and deconstructing him since dawn. Fraser shook his head and closed the report into a black folder, next to Mr. Hyde's. Lieutenant General McDermott stared hard into the eyes of his officers. They'd fought great generals before. "Then let's make sure we win," said McDermott. "Sound the whistle." But the fight never came. The slow and vulnerable wagon train and bison carts pulled along the coastal trails, past the fishermen's villages, and along the young barracks of Beacon Street. Mafia folks swiveled their necks to watch the colonists in such a state of quiet peace. White flags hung from windows and ship masts. It was stunning. Eerie. Firebrands who once showed no restraint in their massacres, nor knew no limit to their puritanical dogma for the so-called immortal Admiral Brady, now deferred their eyes. Certainly no palms were laid for this battered parade, but a full serving of humble pie seemed to swell up in their throats. Seeing the super spy, and Boom Boom Milano, and the revered Josh of Allentown and his shimmering firearm in the gaslight. They fully believed J.B.L. Poyer, Esquire, to be a living vampire, with his alter ego Mr. Hyde to soon return from the dead. But burn him at the stake, they would not. "Let them pass! Let them pass!" said a founding father. Perhaps he was the father who found the Haudenosaunee Constitution, and the way of the Mafia folk to even start this revolution back then. "We don't need any trouble," said a student at the ivy-covered school. He handed Diggs and Davis each a tea chest of dignity for safe passage or good favor. Mac or Marcus something. And yet, all the while, an imposing figure on horseback tracked them at their side. He never got too close, never spoke, never smiled, just observed and dispatched notes to various Whigs and Sons of Liberty. "That shadow has beaten us 36 times, said Dawkins, checking his tattoo records. The figure wore a tricorn hat, 6 stars, and a Continental Navy uniform of wool, with the sleeves ripped off. "And why isn't he fighting us now?" asked Josh. "Oh, he is. Don't you worry about that. Somehow, he is." Ink and blood mixed on Dawkins' back as Paniolo Epinesa, with Polynesian tattoos of his own, added more records to their living library. 3 foreign victories in a dozen days, first in the multiverse. 4 victories versus super collapse conquering generals. 10. The Paniolo added a 10th tally to Diggs' dignity scores, already tying any previous year in just the 13th weakening. 17 bottles. NE shaving cream to JOA. For free. Just then, they could make out the daylight of a weakening portal full of wild mountains, western sunshine, and show-stopping home.
Don't move.
Josh froze where he stood. A razor-sharp blade was at his neck. "Oh, okay," Josh said. It was close enough he could feel its chill. Colder than the falling snow. A second blade covered his wrist, should he dare raise a weapon. There was no one else on the mountain. Josh had scanned the entire pass before advancing that direction. "Who are you?" Josh asked.
Who are you? And what interest do you have on the warpath? Speak quickly.
Home, Josh said. I'm leading a band of refugees home.
Home is not a name, Outlander.
Josh, of Allentown.
Nobody's left in Allentown.
A chilling bear roared in the snowfall.
You are not safe here.
A hood slammed over Josh's head. Blackness. Josh counted the icy steps. He listened close to the patterns of distant screams. Somehow, it reminded him of home. The other home, the Firebaugh Ferry, ship of the dunes. In winter. Josh fell inside a cavern seconds before his hood was removed. He saw some kind of frozen longhouse before him. And then he saw the strong captor step away, pocketing the hood. The man sheathed 2 chromium sabers on his back. They crossed at the hilt and clinked as he walked. Thick furs and royal blue leather covered everything except the gold-armored shoulders that had seen many battles. The hooded swordsman sat on a dignity chest between the 2 skulls of a carnivore bison that dominated the back wall. He removed his hood.
I am Captain Kya Okposo. You are in the growing glaciers.
The Sabretooth Mountains. Josh whispered in awe. People can live here?
I don't know. But they can die here.
Josh looked at the scars and open wounds on this survivalist's face. He had not only seen many battles, but he still fought, as recently as today. Cap, I need to get back to Allentown. I'm actually...
I will not allow it,
said Okposo, pressing his chest and collar hard, as if moving bones.
The Bills who protect it are in grave danger.
They are? Asked Josh, no longer in a hurry to identify himself properly.
A division forms against them. An Eastern Alliance, he calls it.
Who?
The general with 6 stars.
How do you know this?
Many prisoners have been moving. Smugglers trading. The Eichel Tower deconstructed.
Okposo revealed a parchment.
But it is the Bruins who boast loudly. And often travel alone. Like you.
Josh read the stolen Boston Scroll, which declared independence from the tyrannical beasts of the East. They were signatures from Miami to New Jersey. They will have to think of a way to defend themselves without a fort, admitted Josh. Jet fighters and Finns did manage to beat our boys all by themselves. Barely.
And now he's counting on them together to finish the job.
But why not ambush them in his own harbor? Asked Josh.
Ha! Why would a master of war, with a student army, risk bloodshed in his own age when he could converse a division to overwhelm Allentown together?
You have seen many battles, said Josh.
Many losses.
Josh walked to the various totems that this winter warrior had collected in a lifetime of battles. And yet, said Josh, you survive. How do you do it? Josh asked. The survivalist flipped over the parchment to reveal a wanted poster with a reward worth enough dignity to remake a life 1,000 times. Or to end a drought once. A great frozen drought. And the poster had Josh of Allentown's sketch on it. Captain Kya Okposo drew 2 sabers and crossed them at Josh's neck.
I survive. Josh of Allentown.
Weeks later, a weakening opened in the sky and 11 green jet fighters rocketed into 1872. Buffalo Nation. Helicopters, sports cars, and mobile radar systems of the 1980s followed fast. Gotham green and spotlights lit up the quaint row of Allentown saloons as aqua and orange streaks of color sped down Main Street and deployed their vice cops. bad boy Broadway heartthrobs. And boy, these costumes! High on victories and emboldened by a divisional coalition, the Flyboys and Miami Fashion Police were in full-throttle designer uniforms. White, bright, fight. Triple Alliance, Winter Lines. The only thing missing was the Grand Master of the Alliance, with his 6 stars. But that didn't matter. Allentown was wide open and undefended. Burnout, Ski-Doo, Cheetah, Penguin, Vice Cops in the snow, and sports codes. 80s montage. Synth tracks that are totally awesome to the max. Jet planes, crash zooms, mega fly sexy eyes. Awkward empty verse for the patriots who didn't come. Trumpet to the remix. Silly guitar solo. Close up on the bad, pretty boy. The day that you met. Corkscrew flyover. J-E-T-S, jets, jets, jets. 2 hours later, all of the aircraft had run out of jet fuel. It was 1872, and they skidded to a stop in the snow. Both Tua's Aqua Testarossa and Cheetah's Orange Spider were stuck in snowdrifts higher than their chassis. Tua, the tubular tuna, sat beside it in a parka the size of a horse. And too bad, because nobody could see his designer shirt that said, "I wish it were colder." And with all the dignity they could find in the West, consolidated, mostly between mattresses, inside piggy banks, some fished out of a wishing well, they concluded they would have to walk home. Maybe we could take the Stampede train? Asked the Jet, who's a jet that we'll never forget. No, we trashed it, remember? Yeah. We can march it home, said a vice cop called Penguin. A victory is a victory, even if we are cold and tired and shivering and can't feel our arms. He picked up a Gucci bag of dignity and began to waddle through the snow. Just about then, the train whistle sounded. It is the Stampede, said the Jet. Oh no, said Penguin. What? It's a Stampede! George! Cried Captain Okposo, leading hundreds of buffalo-mounted warriors on a blitz. The bison and braves had patiently bided their time in the cover of deep snow. They waited silent in their burrows, keeping the buffalo calm and letting the Eastern Division beat themselves. But the victory charge felt glorious. Josh looked left and right and in front of him at survivors and damn good warriors. Ooh, said Okposo on the warpath. The bills and carnivorous bisons jumped up and shouted now, louder and louder. All the refugees were joining in behind, dancing forward and chucking snowballs at any aggressors. Even Hamlin punched a missile off a frozen jet they were hoping to fire from the snow. Hard hands, baby! Bo clobbered a hair-spraying cop. Bash 'em! Bowie Knox jumped off a rooftop into the side of an escaping jet, snapping a wing. Knock, knock. Do I live in a world of catchphrases? Asked Josh as he rode past the rumble. Oh my God. Is "do I live in a world of catchphrases" my catchphrase? The pent-up release felt so good as the Wild West showman clinched multiple victories at once, and to be home just in time for Christmas. And with the snow coming down and a few Santa red uniforms, it was beginning to look a lot like Christmas. What's he got? Dawkins asked Okposo between charges, pointing at a strange sight.
Oh, him? Nothing.
Turns out that nothing is called a bagpipe, and it was leading a whole gang of desperados into battle with them. They stole back any goods that were making their way out in the retreats. Black, orange, and purple was their outfit.
You think you have a wild show in the West? Laughed Kya. Wait until you meet them.
The final drive took all of 6 minutes. Enemies in full retreat. It seemed Buffalo Nation had an alliance of its own. And, for the first time, they were all winning. Big Iron Bass found fresh ammunition and took one final shot at the Testarossa being dragged through the weakening with a stash of dignity. Boy, the way a 1980s car explodes into an orange fireball no matter what it's shot with. Awesome to the max. Now that is how you finish the Miami job. Explosions, friends, snow angels, and surprise 80s montage. New friends, more explosions, snow, snow, snow. Snow, snow, snow. It set a remarkable backdrop for the hanging of Christmas garlands, the braiding of wreaths, the decorations of old Tannenbaum. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, said the parents as they played with their younglings in the powder. Saloons were shoveled clean, blankets were laid in the inns, axe marks and harpoon holes were patched up. All the while, the charred ruins of New Fort York still loomed like a black ribcage in the white snow. A contrast that reminded everyone of the brutally contrasting year it had been for Allentown. But like fresh fallen snow, 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 it could be softened and buried. The stacked tragedies and sleeplessness since before Thanksgiving could be put behind them, even covered in candles, and loganberries, and tinsel, before settling down for a long winter's nap. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve.